Ethan Miller had built an empire from nothing. At 38, he was one of the youngest self-made billionaires in the United States, a name regularly featured on business magazines and financial news channels. His glass office tower overlooked Manhattan, a symbol of power, success, and distance from his past. Few people knew where he had come from, and fewer still knew the woman who had made his success possible. His mother, Margaret Miller, lived in a small, aging apartment in Queens. The paint on the walls was chipped, the furniture old but carefully cleaned. She lived quietly, surviving on a modest pension and the belief that her son was happy. Margaret had raised Ethan alone after his father died in a factory accident when Ethan was only 9. She worked 2 jobs, cleaning offices at night and sewing clothes during the day, so her son could attend school. She skipped meals so he wouldn't go hungry, wore the same coat for years so he could have new shoes, and never once complained. Ethan never forgot that, at least, not completely. But success changes people, slowly and quietly. After marrying Victoria, a former socialite turned lifestyle influencer, Ethan's life became even more polished. Their penthouse was filled with designer furniture, abstract art, and silence. Victoria valued appearances above all else. To her, image was currency, and everything that didn't fit her perfect world needed to be removed. She never liked Margaret. "She doesn't belong here," Victoria said one evening, swirling wine in her crystal glass. "Your mother makes guests uncomfortable. The way she dresses, the way she talks. Ethan, people judge us." Ethan frowned. "She's my mother, and I'm your wife," Victoria replied calmly. "Do you want investors whispering about your poor background?" Those words settled deep in Ethan's mind. Over time, Victoria's comments grew sharper. She complained when Margaret visited, mocked her simple gifts, and openly avoided being seen with her. Ethan tried to balance both worlds, but the pressure grew heavier. One night, after an argument that lasted hours, Victoria said something that changed everything. "If you really love me," she said, "you'll stop letting her embarrass us." The next morning, Ethan visited his mother. Margaret smiled when she opened the door. "Ethan, I didn't know you were coming. Sit, I'll make tea." He didn't sit. "Mom," he said, avoiding her eyes, "we need to talk." She noticed his tone and slowly placed the kettle down. "I think it's better if you stop coming to the penthouse," Ethan said. "Victoria feels uncomfortable." Margaret stared at him, confused. "I never meant to cause trouble." "It's not just that," he continued, his voice stiff. "Maybe you should move somewhere else. I can pay for a small place. Somewhere quieter." The words hit her harder than any slap. "You want me to leave?" she asked softly. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. "It's for the best." Margaret didn't cry. She didn't shout. She simply nodded. "If that makes your life easier," she said, "then I'll go." That night, Margaret packed her few belongings and left the apartment she had lived in for years. She didn't tell Ethan where she was going. Weeks passed. Ethan buried himself in work. Victoria was pleased. Their social circle grew. Parties became more extravagant, and Margaret faded from conversation as if she had never existed. Then one afternoon, Ethan received a call from an unfamiliar number. "Mr. Miller," the voice said, "this is St. Luke's Hospital." His heart tightened. "Your mother has been admitted. She collapsed at a community shelter." Ethan froze. "A shelter?" he repeated. "Yes," the nurse replied. "She's stable, but you should come." For the first time in years, Ethan felt fear, not the kind caused by market crashes or business risks, but something deeper. At the hospital, he found Margaret lying quietly in a bed, thinner than he remembered, her face pale but calm. She smiled weakly when she saw him. "I didn't want to worry you," she said. Guilt crushed him. The doctor explained that Margaret had been volunteering at a shelter, helping other elderly women who had nowhere to go. She had given away much of what little money she had to people worse off than herself. She refused to list an emergency contact, the doctor added. Said she didn't want to be a burden. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. For the first time, he looked back, not at his success, but at the road behind him. He remembered studying under dim lights while his mother stitched clothes beside him. Remembered her hands, always rough, always warm. Remembered the promises he had made as a child, that he would take care of her. And how easily he had broken them. Ethan began visiting the shelter. At first quietly, then more often. He saw the conditions his mother had endured without complaint. He spoke to the people she helped, listening as they praised her kindness. "She talks about you all the time," one woman said. "Says her son is a good man." Those words hurt more than accusations ever could. When Victoria found out, she was furious. "You're humiliating us," she said. "Associating with shelters and poor people." Ethan looked at her then. Not as his wife, but as a stranger. "My mother was poor," he said. "And she gave me everything." Victoria scoffed. "If you choose her, you choose to ruin your image." Ethan smiled sadly. "Then maybe it deserves to be ruined." That night, Victoria packed her bags. Months later, Ethan made a public announcement. He launched a foundation for displaced elderly citizens, funding housing, healthcare, and community centers across several states. Reporters were shocked. Investors questioned his motives. Ethan didn't care. He moved Margaret into a warm, comfortable home, not a hidden place, but one filled with light and life. He visited her every week, sometimes just to sit in silence. "I'm sorry," he said one afternoon. Margaret held his hand. "I never stopped being proud of you." Years later, when Ethan was asked in an interview what his greatest success was, he didn't mention his company or wealth. "I learned that money can build towers," he said, "but kindness builds people. And without my mother, I would have been neither." The world praised his generosity, but Ethan knew the truth. The real lesson had come too late, but not too late to change.